Welcome back, everyone. My guest today, he sold Waze to Google for 1.1 billion, but he said that the real skill isn't building a billion-dollar company, it's falling in love with a problem so painful that you can't stop until it is solved. Today we unpack how founders can use that obsession to win. Welcome, Uri Levine.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Thanks for being here. Before we go into how you build and scale and sell, at 1.1 billion, are you? Yesterday, I met at dinner some friends, and one of them said, "Simon, I'm living from 1.7% of my net worth of my portfolio." And I said, "1.7%? Oh my God, that's amazing." Now I was like, after selling from 1.1 billion, you live from like 0.1% of your portfolio?
So the reality is that when you're building something, you build it in order to create value, not in order to make money. And only then you increase the likelihood of eventually making money. But when I sold Waze, I actually had only a few percent of the company. So unfortunately, I got diluted over the years. And so people would like to believe that, wait a minute, you sold Waze for 1.1 billion and later move it for another 1 billion. And so somewhere in your pocket, you must have a couple of billions of dollars, way less.
So maybe let's start there. What's your advice for founders who are maybe in Series A, Series B, where your sweet spot is, how not to lose too much of their company while they scale?
You shouldn't care. You should not care about dilution. You should be caring about creating value. So if you need to raise capital and the result of that is being diluted, then be diluted. If you need money in order to create value, then raise capital. At the end of the day, it's about the value that you create and the derivative of the value that you create, and not about the position that you hold in your company. Then simply don't care.
And nowadays, with cloud code and all these things that make you build fast and quick and cheap with fewer people, is it still the same? Do we need so much capital to scale?
Probably yes. Building is so I would say iterations is way faster. Development team initially could be way smaller, but the challenge started when you start to have customers or users, right? So this is the scale. The real scale is not about the product; it's about customers.
All right. So everybody listening right now, oh yeah, that's my thing, distribution, distribution. So what did you learn about distribution? They have a great product, but how do you actually build distribution from 0 to 1, from 1 to 10?
So we are jumping too fast into distribution, and let me say the following. I people know me as the founder of Waze, and later another unicorn movie, then 10 other startups. So no doubt that I'm an entrepreneur. But at the same time, I'm also a teacher. So I feel equally rewarded when I build stuff myself or I guide someone to build it. And fulfilling my destiny as a teacher was writing the book Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution. A book that Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, called the Bible for Entrepreneurs. I actually wrote the foreword to my book. And one of the most important part is about falling in love with the problem. So for me, the journey will always start with a problem. Think of a problem, a big problem, something that it's worth solving, something that the world will become a better place if you solve it. And then you ask yourself, so who has this problem? If you happen to be the only person on the planet with this problem, you know what? Go to a therapist, way faster and cheaper than building a startup. Simon, I'm just checking. Are you still there?
Yeah, sure. I'm listening.
Oh, okay, excellent. So, because I don't see you.
Yeah, yeah, you are on stage. Now we're both on
Okay,
stage.
okay, excellent, good. So the next thing that you would like to do is really speak with those people and understand their perception of the problem, and only then start to think about building the solution. So the journey of building a startup is about value creation. The simplest way to create value is solve a problem. Now, if you follow this path, you start with the problem, you validate the problem with your target audience, and then you build the solution. If your solution works, it's guaranteed that you're creating value. If you start with the solution, You might be building something that no one cares. Now, the end of the day, the journey is going to be really, really challenging. And by the way, to an extent, I would say, look, if you remain just one more second about this problem, the problem is going to serve as the North Star of your journey. When you have a North Star, you're going to make less deviation from the course and you dramatically increase the likelihood of being successful. On top of that, your story is going to be way more compelling. Just imagine that we will be here in 2007, just before I started Waze, and I will tell you I'm going to build an AI crowdsource-based navigation system, which is essentially exactly what we did. And you're going to say, oh yeah, very interesting, but you don't care. If I will tell you I'm going to help you to avoid traffic jams, then you do care. When your customer care, they want you to be successful and they're going to help you to become successful. So for me, the journey always starts with the problem. Now, this journey is going to be a three-dimensional journey, right? The first dimension is going to be a roller coaster journey with ups and downs and ups and downs. If you'll tell me that all the businesses in the world have ups and downs, oh, I agree. But the frequency of those when you're building startup, way more. I think that I heard the best quote on that from Ben Horowitz. Ben Horowitz is one of the founders of Andreessen Horowitz venture capital firm. And before that, he used to be a CEO of a startup. And he was asked whether or not he was sleeping well at night as a CEO of a startup. And he said, oh, yeah, I slept like a baby. I woke up every 2 hours and cried. And that's really the reality. So a roller coaster is one dimension. The second dimension, it's a journey of failures. We are trying to build something new that no one did before. And if we think that we know exactly what we're doing, but the reality is that we don't. So we try. We try one thing and it doesn't work. We try another thing and it doesn't work. We keep on trying different things until we find one thing that does work. If you realize that this is going to be a journey of failures, then there are two immediate conclusions. The first one is that if you're afraid to fail, then in reality, you already failed. Albert Einstein used to say that if you haven't failed, that's because you haven't tried new things before. If you are going to try new things, you will fail. The second one, which is even more important, you want to fail fast. Because when you fail fast, you still have plenty of time to make another attempt, to try another approach, to do another go-to-market strategy, to build another version of the product. And the more attempts that you're going to make, you simply increase the likelihood of being successful. The third dimension, which is perhaps the most important, it's going to be a long journey, a long roller coaster journey of failures. And the longest part of it is that when you try everything and nothing happens, I usually call that the desert of no traction, that really nothing works. And you are going to get out of this desert once you figure out product market fit. And product market fit is defined very simply. That means that you create value to your customers. If you do not figure out product market fit, if you do not create value to your customers, you will die. That's it. You never heard of a company that did not figure out product market fit. They simply died. But for a second, I would say, let's think of all the applications that we're using every day, right? From searching Google, using Waze, Uber, Netflix, ChatGPT, Instagram, whatever it is, right? And you ask yourself, what is the difference between any of those today and the first time that you have used it? And the answer is that there is no difference. We are searching Google today the same way that we search Google for the first time in our life. We are using Waze today the same way that we used Waze for the first time in our life. So once a company figure out product market fit, they don't change that anymore. That's the value that they create to their customers. They don't want to change that. How
with
long did
Waze,
it take companies to get there?
with Waze, you
Mm,
had a situation when you had no drivers, no data, no data, no drivers. One has to get traction, or both
You
need
are
to get
right. You are
traction.
right.
What was
That
the
was
decision framework for you to say, all right, this is how we will get this traction?
so we'll speak in a second about critical mass, right? Because Waze definitely requires critical mass. You're right. The more we have a flywheel, that more users creates better data because everything is crowdsourced, and better data brings more users and so forth. And that was the challenge at the beginning, right? But in general, I would go back to the beginning, right? So you ask yourself, how long does it take companies to figure out product market fit? For Waze, it was 4 years. For Netflix, it was 10 years. For ChatGPT, you'll tell me, wait a minute, they just started. Wait, they started in 2015. It was 6 or 7 years until we heard the name for the first time in our life. So figuring out product market fit takes a long period of time. And there is only one metric for product market fit: retention. Look, it's really simple. If you create value, they will come back. If they are not coming back, that means that you are not creating value and you need to keep on iterating. And you are right. At the beginning of Waze, we started in 2007. In most places, it was good enough only in 2011, 4 years after that. It took us a while to figure out what doesn't work through iterations and iterations and iterations. Some of them are about bringing customers, some of them are about because of this virtuous circle of more data creates better use case, and therefore it's easier to bring users, and more users creates better data. We inject the data into the system. We teamed up with fleet management companies to provide us with real-time traffic information, real-time GPS data that we converted into real-time traffic. And that really helps us to bring the data into becoming good enough, faster.
And when
So
Google paid 1.1 billion for Waze, what did they actually buy? The tech, the data, the community, and which one were you most afraid to hand over?
So look, once you are agreeing to being acquired, then you are not afraid anymore, right? That's the decision that you have made. You have made a decision to sell everything, and that's it. The reality is that if I will go and ask 100 people in the street, how often do you use Waze? They will tell me every day. I would ask people, how often do you use Google Maps? They will tell me when I need it. The frequency of use was the key factor for Google to acquire, because Larry had Larry Page has the model that he believed in, what he called the toothbrush model, something that people actually use twice a day. And Waze was one of those. And so the reality is that we have created an app that people are using every day, even if they go to a place that they know how to get there, because this is your safety net. This is your, the application that you are simply using in order to go to your office, even if you know how to get. So the most significant value that Waze create is certainty. You know what's going on. And this is why people are using it that frequent. This is what Google acquired. The reality is that back then people were using Waze way more than they were using Google Maps, and it's still the case.
Right now, what is the big problem that you are in love with?
So one of my most promising startups that we are dealing with actually has to do with retirement saving in the US. The problem is that if I would ask 100 people in the US, how do you save for retirement? Or they would tell me, oh, I have 401k plan, saving plans, and I agree. But if I would ask them the second question, how do you invest in your 401k plan? They don't know. Now, when I was young, my dad told me that if you don't know, there is no way that you're doing the right thing. And he was right. Most of those people are actually invested in the default, and the default is not going to provide them with enough retirement saving. So Pontera is the startup that is helping Americans to retire richer by actually providing a platform for financial advisors to manage your 401k. And most of the people basically they're overlooking their 401k saving. And the result is that when they will get to the age of retirement, they are not going to be enough, to have enough. If I need to define the nature of the beast for retirement saving, it's really simple. When you are young, you don't care, and when you get older, it's too late.
That's a big
It's,
problem and a relevant problem right now.
it's
And
definitely, people asking themselves, am I going to have enough for retirement? Now, if you start early and you demonstrate consistency and you do the right things, then absolutely yes. But if you don't, then you do have a problem.
And what's different in this solution that wasn't there already?
So today, without Pontera, financial advisors cannot manage your 401k. The structure that the market is built is such that each and every employer have their own 401k plan, right? And so there are millions of plans. And the result is that financial advisors are really unable to manage your plan. And with Pontera, they do.
How do you price something when you're creating a category that didn't exist before? How do you know and what is the process to find the right price?
So we defined sort of one part of the journey, right? Product market fit, which is going to be always the first part of the journey. And it's going to be a long roller coaster journey of failures. Once you figure that out, then you actually buy yourself a ticket to the next part of the journey, which could be about figuring out business model. So how do I price a product? Or could be about how do I figure out my go-to-market and growth, right? Each one of them is going to be a long roller coaster journey of failures. The right way to price a product is to understand the value that it creates. And then you price not the product, you price the value that you create. So to an extent, I would say if you bring someone a value of, you save them 10 hours a month, or you save them $100 a month, right? And I will tell you, wait a minute, if I'm saving you money, then how about I'll get a piece of that, right? And that is going to be very simple. So once you can quantify the value, you are able to price that according to the value that you generate. In general, I would say fair market price would be somewhere between 10 to 25% of the value that you create. So if I'm bringing you a new customer worth for you $1,000 a year, then you're probably willing to pay me anywhere between $100 to $250 for that new customer. If I'm saving you money, that's easy. When you need to define the value by words and not by numbers, this is where it's going to become a little bit more complex. And you will need to actually speak with your customers and ask them, you know what? Can you tell me what's the value that I bring you? Or how painful it's going to be if I'm going to shut down the product. Now, if you're not creating value, then you are very easy for the customer to give up on you, right? You're not creating value. So it's always going to go back into creating value.
You are coaching founders now. What's a mistake you see even the smartest ones make right now?
So so some and in general, I would say most of the startups have failed because they did not figure out product market fit. They started with a solution, they liked the solution, and they were unable to see where the value that they are bringing. But in general, what I've seen a lot, and this is um, um, probably two factors. One is about perfection. If we realize that this is going to be a journey of failures, then you want to make your mistakes fast. The biggest enemy of good enough is perfect. You don't need to be perfect in order to win the market. You need to be good enough. And the way that, by the way, you are going to become good enough is that you're going to start with not good enough and you iterate and iterate and iterate until you become good enough. Just imagine two twin sister companies, right? They start the same day, they build the same product, they make the same progress, they even have twins, brother and sister teams, right? Really identical until one day company A is saying, you know what, our product really suck. It's embarrassing level. We need to keep on building that. And company B is saying exactly the same thing. The product really suck. It's embarrassing level. We are going to go to the market with it. From this point on, company B is going to make way faster progress than company A because they have real feedback from customers. Now, this is really, really important because when I tell that to entrepreneurs, occasionally I would hear, wait a minute, you don't understand. This is really embarrassing level. We're going to lose all of our customers. You don't have any customers. We're going to hurt our brand name. No, you don't have a brand name. You will have once you become successful. Until then, you have nothing to lose. When you have nothing to lose, this is exactly where you can make bold moves and try something that is premature. So failing fast is really, really critical at the early stage of a company. And then what I've seen a lot is inability to make hard decisions. And I'll give you a few examples. I spoke with many customers that they told me that their startup failed, right? And asked them why, what happened. And about half told me the team was not right. And I kept on asking, what do you mean the team was not right? And what I heard the most is, we had this guy not good enough and this guy not good enough. So not good enough was the main reason. Another reason that I heard quite often was we had communication issues, right? Something that I actually called ego management issues. And then I asked them the most interesting question. When did you know that the team is not right? Now the answer was scary. All of them told me within the first month. Within the first month. And I said, wait a minute, the problem was not that the team was not right. The problem was that the CEO did not make hard decisions. Making hard decisions is hard. Making easy decisions is easy. This is why most people don't like to make the hard decisions. Now, the reality is that in all those companies that there is someone that shouldn't be there and the CEO doesn't do anything, the result is always the same. The top performing people would leave. Building successful company is hard. It's hard if you have the right team. It's nearly impossible if the top performing people are leaving and you still keeping people that shouldn't be there, right? So this is a nightmare. But the essence is making hard decisions. There are few areas that hard decisions are required. One of them is around people. Other one is about focus. Focus is not what we are doing. The hard decisions are about what not to do. These are the hard decisions, saying no. And saying no is something that startup needs to learn very, very fast because otherwise they're going to be spread too thin. And when you spread too thin, you don't have enough velocity, enough power to actually break through where you need to break through. So if you look at Waze, Waze is only for drivers. There is no Waze for truck drivers. There is no Waze for public transportation. There is no Waze for pedestrian. There is no Waze for bicycle drivers. Only regular drivers, commuter drivers. That's the focus, saying no to everything else. And that's actually brought us the results that we wanted because we ended up with being, the most significant driving app for pretty much everywhere on the globe. Not
Right now,
everywhere,
the
but
community
most.
has this situation where you speak words and it gets built. You can build a landing page in 10 minutes, you can build a feature in half an hour. So this situation that you are describing is now times 30 because you can just speak it and it gets built. So the opportunities are so many. How to figure out what is actually worth building? What should we build right now?
Validate with your customers. Start with a problem. Go and speak with 100 people that you believe have this problem and understand their perception of the problem. And once you do, go and build. Albert Einstein said something about that. If I would have 1 hour to solve a problem, I will invest 55 minutes to understand the problem and only 5 minutes to understand the solution. This is really important, right? Because when we build something that no one cares, then we are not going to be successful, even if it's working. Even if it's working perfectly, no one cares. And we have the tendency to think that, okay, we're going to tell people what we are doing. No one cares about what we are doing. People do care about what you're doing for them. So start there and then validate the problem, make sure that you really understand the problem, and only then build a solution. And the next phase is that you want to validate the value that you create. So you go to those people that explain to you that this is their problem and you offer them your solution to try, right? And then you go and you watch them using that. You tried, you speak with them, you understand that you're actually creating value for them, and then you scale.
You are coaching founders who are scaling. What is your process of coaching them? What do they need from you? How do you deliver it?
So So I coach and mentor dozens of entrepreneurs, right? And I do, by the way, I have do have two separate frameworks, right? There are companies that I engage with and help them, from the first day throughout the entire journey. And in addition, I'm doing workshops and helping some in some workshops or accelerators, doing my coaching sessions that help them to move forward faster. Um, Biggest issue in most cases is about decision making. So people get stuck and basically saying, "Wait a minute, I don't know if I should go right or left." Now, the reality is that I might know or not know, but you have to make a decision. In your life, there are right decisions or no decisions. Because when you make a decision, you don't know what it would be like if you would choose a different path. And therefore, encouraging people to make decisions is actually very powerful. And so this is, one thing that I help a lot, realizing that we don't know. It's a journey of failures, right? If you'll tell me, if I would ask you, so how you are going to go to the market, and you will tell me, oh, we're going to do Facebook ads. It's a good answer. But if it doesn't work, then we want to try something else, right? And so the next thing that we will do is that we will go into a whiteboard and we will describe 50 different ways to bring customers. And then I will ask him which one of those 50, right? And the reality is that you basically say, wait a minute, I don't know if this one is going to work. I don't know if this one is going to work. And so the next thing that we will do, we will actually define sort of a criteria to analyze them. And part of the criteria is how fast it's going to take us to set that up and how fast we would know if it's working or not.
How long do you validate? Is there a specific timeline where you say, if we didn't validate this assumption after so many weeks or days, then we pivot?
Validate what? The value proposition or validate the go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, the assumption in it. So if we do this, we think we will have so many new users or such a higher
So in
NPS or
go-to-market,
so
I
many
would
referrals.
say in go-to-market, the reality is that the feedback is really, really fast, right? You will tell me, wait a minute, we are going to do PR and the result is that we're going to get customers. So do PR and see if we get customers, right? We're going to do Facebook ads and we will see that. We're going to do, this podcast and that is should bring tons of people to buy my book, right? So maybe this is what we are trying to do. The reality is that it might, some. But the reality, the most important part is that I need to measure. So if you don't measure, you don't know. If you don't know, then there is no way that you can make progress. And this is really, really important in all of your go-to-market activities. The most important part is to measure. If you don't measure, you don't know. If you don't know, there is no way that you can make progress.
So we
But
say podcast, and then we say we'll measure every Friday how many downloads we create from podcasts.
yep.
How long do you give it? Let's say each podcast creates a little bit per week. How do you know if it's working and you should be on it and double down?
So if it doesn't move the needle, you shouldn't, right? If you have high expectation for something and it doesn't happen, then that's it. Give it up. And the beauty of that is that you can do multiple attempts, right? You can try multiple things. Now we might say, wait a minute, this is really a low distribution podcast. We shouldn't be expecting a lot. We need that in order to go to a way more distributed podcast. Okay, so I understand this process, and it makes sense. But as soon as it does not move the needle the way that you expected, give it up. And don't try to make it perfect. It simply does not work, right? So if you are basically saying, wait a minute, we are going to do SEO optimization and you finish the SEO optimization and there are no results or the results are insignificant, then this is it. Don't give it up. If you're basically saying, wait a minute, I'm going to pay some influencers to write something on my product, and this should work, then try it out, right? Start with someone with not necessarily the top one, but with hundreds of thousands of followers, and see if it's working, right? If it's working, excellent. If it's not, then give it up. The most important part is to disqualify fast and not to keep on dragging something that does not work.
You are now rewriting your newest edition of the book. What will change?
So, in the new edition of the book, there is a new chapter about crisis management. If you look at the world in the last 5, 6 years, there were so many crises that you look at it and you say, wait a minute, you are going to run into a crisis, right? If you are building a company, whether or not you start today or you start tomorrow or you started already, you will run into a crisis. And what to do during crisis is actually very, very important. Now, it's not that you can prepare for that because you don't know what kind of crisis you're going to run into.
But there will be crisis. We know that.
But there will be, right? So even looking at the very simple approach and saying, okay, bearish versus bullish market, right? In bearish market, it's going to be hard time to raise capital, right? So the potential of running out of capital is going to become significant. And if you're running out of capital, then this is going to be a crisis. I can easily define crisis, two flavors of crisis, right? First one, so let me first of all define a crisis. A crisis is that you lose something significant that you already had. And maybe this is product market fit. So you already had product market fit. You already figure out the product, and then the market has changed for different reasons. Maybe new competitor make you irrelevant, maybe new regulation, maybe something happens that your product is no longer relevant. That means that you need to go back to square one. That's usually very rare, but it does happen. The most common type of crisis is cash, right? So you all of a sudden something happens and you are under a threat of running out of cash. So maybe an investor that you signed a term sheet disappeared. Maybe major customer disappeared. Maybe there was COVID and no one was traveling, and all of my travel tech companies were actually under a crisis.
And how to deal with a
Maybe
cash crisis? Do we deal in the moment or 3 months before?
you don't know 3 months before.
That's
When
true.
crises happen, you don't know, right? So I would say keep your pocket full. That's always a good advice, right? But it's not always doable, right? And so the reality is that very few things happens when there is a cash crisis. Number one, you need to understand it. So you need to basically say,
What's the root
Houston,
cause?
we have a problem. Is
Mhm.
that problem going to disappear? That's the only root cause that you care, right? If you lost a customer, then you already lost it, right? Is there a way to recover? Do we have plans for other customers? Maybe, maybe not. So two things that you need to do, right? There is COVID, how long it's going to do. There is a war, how long this war will actually impact the results and so forth. There is a bearish market. There is supply chain crisis, whatever it is. The first thing that you need to do is understand how impactful it is, how long it's going to last, and what does it mean for me? And what does it mean for me is really how long do I have before I die? And that analysis you need to do really fast.
Mhm.
And then the next thing to decide what to do. This is my strategy. I'm actually, let me give you an example, right? To actually run that exercise with multiple cases. Let's say that you have 5 months of run rate and you do generate revenues, but you burn more than that and you get a term sheet from an investor. And that should be pretty much excellent. And so this is really, really powerful because you are almost there. But then they withdraw the term sheet. So the investor basically decide we are not going to invest. You have multiple options, right? Number one is basically saying, let's reduce the burn, let's reduce the expenses, let's fire half of the people so we have enough money to keep on running. Someone else will say, wait a minute, we already got a term sheet. That means that we have a pretty good story. Let's try to raise capital from someone else, right? And still have 5 months to do that. Let's use 4 months to do that. And if not, then only then let's reduce the burn into the bare minimum. And each one of them is a good plan. Which one, I don't know. You will need to decide as a CEO. But the most important part is that you make that decision today. You cannot wait with making the decision because you will be running out of options. And so you make that decision today, and then the next thing that you do is that you realign everyone, all the key stakeholders. Number one, people that you have, right? So your team. You're basically saying, this is what we are facing, this is the crisis, this is what it means, and we are going to do X. And then the next stakeholders that you would like to align is actually your customers or your board. Your customers next, and then the board, and eventually shareholders. In general, I would say those people that will help you out of the crisis are your team. These are the most important stakeholders, and therefore the alignment needs to happen with them first. And the rest will follow.
Your companies that you work with, they might be under duress right now. What are they experiencing right now? What are some crises and how are they navigating them?
So most of my startups, their market is really in the US and Europe and so forth. So they are not suffering from the war right now in Israel. Um, I'm in Tel Aviv right now. I hope that we will not have missile alarm while we are actually having this chat. But if we do, then I will need to go to the shelter. Those that their market is actually being impacted, they do suffer cash crisis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent, you look at it and you basically say, and the analysis was actually all over exactly the same results. This is not going to last forever. This is going to be hopefully a matter of weeks or 1 month max, and therefore we should, return into normal business within relatively short period of time. And meanwhile, we do suffer. We do suffer from loss of revenues. We do suffer from challenges to do new sales. But that's about it.
It feels for younger folks like me, I'm 46, it feels like, wow, this time is more, there are more rapid changes. Like one tweet can change the stock market, can change my liquidity in my business, and I have to completely change contracts with vendors and change business model. Is this actually a higher pace right now, or does it just feel like that and it's always been like that?
It is higher pace. Innovation have higher pace. And so you look at how long did it take OpenAI or let's call that all the general chats, right? So AI chats to reach 1 billion user, way faster than it took the internet to reach 1 billion users, way faster than it took mobile phones to reach 1 billion users, way faster than it took smartphones to reach 1 billion users, and so forth. So things becoming faster and faster and faster. Um, and still, I would say, even then, the you look at some of the top companies of the world, like let's say Amazon and Google and Netflix, they're all about 30 years old, right? And then you take Tesla and Facebook, they're about 20 years old, and even younger company like Airbnb maybe or Shopify or whatever. And you ask, how long did it take for those companies, or how much of their value was created in the first decade versus rest of the time? Then you realize that in all cases it was less than 5% in the first decade. In all those companies, it was less than 5% in the first decade. Generating value takes time. Creating value takes time. Because really what happens on the first decade is about figuring out product market fit and then figuring out growth and then figuring out business model. And then you're ready to take off, but you're already 10 years old. So to an extent, I would say this is going to remain pretty much the same. Figuring out taking off is going to be a long while. And figuring out product market fit, the fact that you can do faster prototyping and faster iterations today should help. You should be able to do that faster. But at the end of the day, the iteration is between you and your customers, not between you and the code. So we think, okay, it's going to take no time to really build the next feature or the next version of the product. But what to put into it, that we don't know. And in order to find out, what we really need to do is go and speak with our customers and understand what is it is what's valuable for them, and in particular, those customers that have failed to use our product, what prevented them from using our product? Because these are the barriers. These are the next version of your product is not about adding feature. It's about making it simpler. Because when you look at the most successful products in the world, right, from Google search to WhatsApp to Waze to iPhone to ChatGPT, and you ask all those products what made them such successful product, we can claim multiple things, right? We can claim this is being pioneer. We can claim this is about technology, about execution excellence, and I agree with all of those. But it's actually none of those. It's simplicity. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. This is a statement by Leonardo da Vinci. At the end of the day, to build something simple is hard. And when you build something simple, then you actually engaging more and more and more customers because it's easy for them to engage. And
And
then
they
you
will probably not be the ones to give you the idea, right? But you will probably have the idea. But if you quickly co-create it and
exactly.
give it into their hands and you see it working, now that's the loop that you want to have, right?
So one of the most important things that I teach entrepreneurs is I want them to think of the flow of their product, right? So for a second you think about it and you say, okay, wait a minute, someone is coming into my website, and then they need to register, and then I offer them options, and then they choose options, and then I present to them the results, and then there is a flow, right? And I'm saying this flow, you look at it as a set of barriers for the user. If someone completes all those phases, then they get value. And then they might come back, right? If there is value, they will come back. But those that failed in the middle, because it was too complex for them, because they didn't know what to do, because we asked them to register and they didn't know what to register for, right? Or because we harassed them with the different requirements for the password that they don't even know that they need, right? And so we created something that I call that a funnel of users. And in this funnel of users, you are going to lose the most. Your iteration should be about those barriers. So each one of those phases that you see them as the normal flow of the app, I'm telling you they are barriers for some of the users. And what I want you to do is speak with the users that failed in this particular barrier
Mm,
because they know something that we don't know. They know what happened. We don't know what happened. We know that it happened, but we don't know what happened. And we want to ask them why. Most entrepreneurs that I've met are speaking with those that are keep on using the product,
hmm.
those that did not have any problem in getting there
True. Yeah.
because they are already there, right? And sometimes we ask them, what other features would you like to have? They don't need more features. They are using the current set of features that is valuable enough for them. So they do come back, right? So I don't need them to tell me what other features they needed.
True.
What I need is to maybe remove some complexities along the way for more users to come. And that part is really, really hard because when you speak with someone that tried your product and failed, what they're going to tell you is that you suck. That's it, right? I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that I'm great.
It doesn't feel
Great. You're
great.
going to
Yeah.
hear from the current users, right? Not from those that failed.
Yes.
So in general, I would say, look, there are three rules for the iterations of product market fit. If you want to create simplicity, then watch new users using your product for the first time in their life. And if you see them struggle, then you know how to overcome that. If you
How,
want to
how do
hear
you,
that you,
how do you create a situation where you watch that?
you know what, I will ask you to use the product for the first time. We're going to sit in the same room. I'm going to watch you over. I'm going to tell you, look, I have now a new product. I would like you to use that. You never heard of this product before. I'm going to tell you in general that this should be doing X, Y, Z for you. And speak up your use experience, right? So
Mm-hmm.
tell me what you're doing, what you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking, why you are doing this, and so forth. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Pick
Or
from
screen
people that you
share.
know.
Show me how you're using it. Yeah.
Yep. Speak up, speak with people that you don't know
Mm-hmm.
that are going to use your product for the first time in their life and watch
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be the most significant learning that you can imagine. The second one is that you go and reach out to people that fail to use your product. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
those that have used that once and never came back. Maybe those that have failed throughout this product flow. And you ask them one question: why? Why you are not coming back?
Mm-hmm.
And these are hard, right? Because they don't necessarily want to speak with you, right? They don't
Correct.
really care, right? They basically say, you know what, your products suck. I don't really care. You're going to try to sell me again. I don't want to buy that again. So figure out a way to reach out to them and speak with them. Tell them, you know what, this is really important for me. I'm going to buy you a beer or pizza or whatever. Or I'm going to give you a gift card of Amazon for $100 if you answer 10 minutes of my time,
Mm-hmm.
if you help me out here. And then the third type of people that most people really like to speak with is those that are telling us that we are great. Those we really like, right? This is
But they stick
we
around
really like to speak
anyways.
with
Yeah.
they, yeah, but and we occasionally need that, right? We need to know
Oh,
that
yeah.
we are able to create value, but they are not helping us to improve the product.
That's true. I was actually thinking today of reaching out to the last 4 cancellations to our community subscription and asking them. And I didn't send it yet because I was thinking about the language. What's the best language to ask them? Hey, you just canceled the subscription. What is the best question? Is it what could what have you been missing? What was the expectations versus what you got? What can I improve? How would you ask?
So the first thing is that you need to ask for help. When you ask for help, then there are more people that are actually willing to help you than not.
Mm.
The second one is that you are going to tell them that you are not going to try to convince them
Mm-hmm.
to come back again. You are
Mm-hmm.
trying to improve your product. So, so the other people will not have the same challenge as they do.
Help and not convincing.
And then you can ask them, it's only one question. Why? Why did you leave?
I liked it. Thank you so much, Uri. Where can people find you and find your book?
So book is easy, Amazon. I'm always findable on my website, urilevine.com. My email is very simple, uri@urilevine.com, and it's Levine with an E at the end. And also on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you so much for being on the show, sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience with us. Thank you so much, Uri. Have a great day. Keep rolling, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.